Shankar and Alan Pullman from Studio 111 are here tonight and will be telling you about the design options and the way in which you, as stakeholders, can state your preferences. This project is being sponsored by Councilmember Michael Bonin's office and the Los Angeles Department of Transportation. Alec Bartrasov and Vishesh Anand are attending here tonight from Council District 11. Sorry if I messed up your names, your last names. There will be a second step meeting at the Farmers Market on Sunday, November 22nd from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. It will contain more specific design questions and options based on the answers that are given tonight. So tonight's webinar is being recorded, and there will be an opportunity for those not present this evening to view and provide feedback on this presentation. So all attendees will be muted during the presentation. So if you think of any questions, please type them into the question and answer the Q&A box. We hope to have time at the end of this to get to all or at least most of your questions.
Just really quickly, we had a comment in the question and answer box about the sound being on. So we do have Anna speaking at the moment. I believe the panelists are able to hear her just fine. If there are any other participants who are unable to hear the audio, can you please let us know in the chat box? But otherwise, the sound should be working fine.
Okay, so if we have slide 2. So the boundaries of the downtown Mar Vista Beautification Project are along Venice Boulevard from Inglewood to Beethoven. This is a 0.8-mile stretch along Venice that is the heart of Mar Vista and is home to cafes, businesses, entertainment sites, quirky arts and crafts, and many diverse restaurants. Included in this area are the Mar Vista Farmers Market and the Mar Vista Branch Library. I also saw a little craft store that had turtles in the name of it, and I really wanted to go in. It said make an appointment only, and I'm gonna have to do that. So anyway, it's an exciting area, a lot of fun stuff there. So next slide, please. So during these past 5 years, this part of Mar Vista has seen many new improvements. Significant outreach in previous years prioritized elements which have been installed, such as transit stop enhancements, new trash and recycling receptacles, signalized crosswalks, median landscaping, and many more things. So also, I wanted to mention the upcoming projects. You will be seeing street tree installations coming. And there is a hopscotch design that you see at the bottom of the slide by Tracy Corinne of Tracy Mosaics. This installation will be at the library and it is ready to be installed. She only requires a maintenance partner to obtain an R permit in order to install this. So if anyone's interested in partnering with Tracy on the maintenance, I can put you in touch with her. So during prior outreach, the community also expressed a desire for public art, wayfinding signage, street seating, and landscape accents. The Downtown Mar Vista Beautification Project addresses these 4 categories. Mar Vista stakeholders have a chance to revisit these elements, assign a priority to each one, and provide feedback on what they should look like, what those elements should look like. So I'm going to turn the presentation over now to Studio 111, and they will go through these elements and choices. So, Shruti.
Thank you, Anna. Hi, everyone. My name is Shruti Shankar. I'm with Studio 111. Today on the call, as Anna mentioned, we also have Alan Pullman from Studio 111 and Sophia Asi. And we will be walking you through our sort of preliminary conceptual package for elements and ideas for the Downtown Mar Vista Beautification Project. So the purpose of this workshop really is to assess the need and desire for specific elements of beautification in Downtown Mar Vista. And we will be asking you to vote on your preferred options to share your thoughts. But before we dive into that, we'd like to launch a quick test poll to get familiar with the interactive polling on this meeting and also get a sense of who we have with us at the meeting today. If you are calling into this meeting from a phone line, or if you're using an older version of the app, the interactive poll might not be visible on your screen. but we will be sharing an online survey after this meeting, which will have all of the same questions. So that will be another opportunity to participate if you are unable to do so because of technology restrictions right now. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and the recording will also be available for viewing after this meeting is concluded. So I'm going to launch the first poll now, and this is just a sample, sort of a test poll, just to get familiar with the interactive polling. But please tell us which of these describes you best. I'm going to launch the poll. There we go. So which of these describes you best? And you can select all the options that apply. It is a multiple choice question. So we're getting a lot of folks voting in here. We might give this a few more seconds to make sure we're getting everyone. Okay, great. Looks like we have most of the people on the call being able to participate, which is great. So I'm going to now share the results. This is what we had. A good mix of folks, but a large number of people who are Mar Vista residents. Great, welcome. We're really looking forward to hearing your feedback on this meeting today. We also have some representation from business or store owners and some other employees, customers, or visitors to Mar Vista. So thank you all for joining us. So as Anna mentioned, there have been a number of previous and ongoing improvements to enhance downtown Mar Vista, and this project will add to those efforts. But we want to hear from the community to make sure that these are improvements that the community wants to see. And to that end, we wanted to start with a discussion of what should be the goals for beautification efforts in downtown Mar Vista as part of this project. So we have a few potential goals listed on this slide here. The first is to create a unifying identity for downtown Mar Vista. So creating improvements that have a consistent character that can tie the corridor together. Creating an enhanced visitor and community experience. So adding elements that make the street feel more inviting and welcoming. The third goal is amenities that engage local patrons. So improvements that support local businesses and local economic activity. And our last goal is embracing interactive social spaces. So using improvements as tools to create opportunities for people to stay. Again, these are sort of high-level goals for the project itself, and we'd like to get your feedback on which of these should be priority for the Downtown Mar Vista Beautification Project. So I'm going to launch this poll now, and similar to the first poll, this will be a multiple choice question where you can select all the goals that you think are appropriate for this project. Okay. I'll give it a few more seconds to make sure everyone has a chance to vote in. Okay, so we're ending this poll now. So there was a good amount of voting on all four options. We can see that creating an enhanced visitor and community experience got a slight majority with 71% of the votes, 29 of 41 people voting for that. That's great. And we do have a lot of interest in the other goals on the slide as well. So thank you for sharing that. Can we go to the next slide, please? Sophia, could we go to the next slide?
Sorry about that. My computer froze and now it's working.
So we do have a question while we wait. We do have a question in the Q&A box. Are you answering questions as they come up, or should we wait until the end? So we are going through the presentation with all of the polling components, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end to address questions in the comment box. But please feel free to add questions to the Q&A box as they come up, and we'll address them at the end. Okay, so we have a kit of parts approach for this project. And as part of this first engagement, we would like to get your input on specific types of improvements that you would like to see or see more of in downtown Mar Vista. And as part of our kit of parts, we have public art, wayfinding and signage, street seating, as well as landscape accents. So this is a broad palette of ideas, and your feedback today will help us focus on the specific elements for downtown Mar Vista's beautification that we can implement through this project. So we will go through each of these elements in more detail and use a similar polling method to get your feedback on ideas or elements that you'd like to see or that you think are appropriate. And once we have looked at each of these in more detail, we'll also come back to a final question on which of these are the highest priority elements in your opinion to include as part of downtown Mar Vista's beautification efforts. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so we will be going through a series of kit of parts elements, as I mentioned, through the next few slides, and each slide speaks to one element. So in this case, we're starting off with wall art, which is a part of public art. And each of them will have a series of options for design themes within that, like what you're seeing on the slide. Again, this is our first workshop, and these are high-level ideas, not actual designs that we're suggesting at this stage of the project. This is intended more to get a sense of the priorities and needs from a community perspective and what you would like to see. We also have a cost indicator at the top left that indicates how expensive this improvement is, typically on a scale of $1 to $3 signs compared to other improvements within this kit of parts. So first up, we have public art. And as part of that, one of the elements that we can explore is wall art. So wall art has the potential to add an iconic element to the corridor, and it can also be sort of a participatory art or design that the community can help create. So as part of this option, for example, we could explore how to include community members, perhaps the youth, to participate in making the art itself. So some things to keep in mind are that wall art will only be possible at a few locations along the corridor, and it will require a mural permit and a maintenance agreement with a business or property owner. So we have a few different examples of wall art that showcase themes for design that we would like to get your thoughts on. Option A focuses on patterns and color, so a mural that has a more of an abstract expression. Option B is an example of interactive art that provides opportunities for more Instagrammable moments. Option C is typography-based or message-based art. Option D showcases an example of community co-created art. So again, it's something where we could get the community members together to help implement the work of art or even help design it. And option E is other types of wall installations that use materials other than paint. So to kind of broaden the scope, this could be something that's installed on facades, but also on fences. So again, these are ideas that we would like to get your input on, and we can work with local artists to create the artwork itself. So we would like to know your top 2 preferences for wall art among these ideas. And so the next poll will have 2 questions. On the first question, please select your top choice among these examples. And on the second question, please select your next highest choice from the list. You will notice that there's a none of the above option on the first question, which you can select as well if you feel that wall art is not a priority for this project. So launching the next poll. Okay, we're getting a lot of votes coming in, so we'll give this a few more seconds just to make sure we're capturing all the feedback. And for those of you who joined us late, we will be having a Q&A session at the end to address questions in the comment box. So please post your comments or your questions in the Q&A box, and we will be able to address that at the end. Okay. So we'll be closing this poll in a couple of seconds more. Okay, so we had 43 people vote on this question, and we had a lot of interest expressed in interactive art, in community created art, as well as installations, with some interest in patterns and color as well as the top choice. We did have a number of people expressing that wall art might not be a priority, and that's a question, again, we'll come back to at the end. And then as a second priority, community created and installation art led the round on that one. So thank you again for your comments, for your feedback on that. Can we go to the next slide, please? So our next slide has to do with surface graphics. As part of public art, we also have these types of surface graphics that can add color and art to soften the pavement along the street. We are proposing this improvement for locations in the bike lane buffer, such as the example that you see on the image to the left. So surface graphics on asphalt are relatively easier to install compared to other artistic improvements, but they will require periodic maintenance to stay for a long time. We have two potential options for surface graphics listed on this slide. Option A is from the City of Los Angeles People Street program, and it includes a variety of patterns and colors that are pre-approved by the city for use within the public right-of-way. So these are simple geometric graphics that just add a pop of color and vibrancy to the streetscape. And using this palette would help us reduce permitting time to get these improvements in the ground, while still having options for patterns and color that fit within the broader identity of improvements for downtown Mar Vista. Option B is other types of asphalt patterns that we could also explore that can be created specific to Mar Vista. And these would provide us options for greater customization from a design identity standpoint. So this is a fairly simple sort of question with two predominant choices for surface graphics, the City of LA People Street graphics or other types of asphalt art. So we're going to launch that poll. And you'll notice, again, we do have a none of the above option for those who feel this is not as much of a priority. There are several measures that we could take to maintain such graphics. So that would be a part of our design and implementation work. So that's something to keep in mind while voting for this option as well.
Hey, this is Alec. I'll also add that our predominant locations for treatments like this would be where there wouldn't be cars driving over it and accelerating wear and tear. So we are very mindful of that and want to make sure that we put in something that will last longer than usual.
Okay. So closing the poll in just a second. So we did have a lot of folks voting for none of the above. And if some of that concern, again, has to do with, the fading of these murals or their longevity, then please do, make your remarks known in the chat or the Q&A box. There are measures we can take to reduce that or negate that. but these improvements will certainly serve to add a pop of color if that's a priority for the street. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Our next elements are still within the realm of public art, but include other artistic elements that can enhance the corridor to create a sense of place and character. So we have a variety of options under this. The first is option A, which is pole art or medallions that can be mounted on existing streetlight poles and be custom designed for downtown Mar Vista to, denote a very distinctive character and identity and create a sense of arrival that you've reached downtown. Option B is artistic banners that can again be on existing streetlight poles, and these could include graphic design and other elements to again create a strong sense of identity for downtown Mar Vista. Option C and D are ideas for more temporary art. So option C is an idea for art elements that can be associated with the farmers market. So it could be seating or shade elements that are maintained by the farmers market and brought out every weekend when the market is happening. And option D is temporary art that could accompany the Mar Vista Art Walk, again, to create a more festive environment during the art walk by using these sort of public art markers that are temporary and put out during the art walk and then taken back in after the event. So these are some of the options we've identified for other artistic elements on the corridor. And now I will be launching polling on this, and similar to the first question on wall art, this is again going to have two questions within the poll. Please select your top choice under the first question and your second highest choice in the next question among these sets of improvements. Again, to reiterate, while we wait for the polling in progress, we will be coming back to the Q&A box at the end of the presentation. So please feel free to share your questions on there, and we will be addressing as many of those as possible at the end. Giving this a few more minutes. Okay, we're going to close this poll in a couple of seconds more. So here's the results from this poll. We again had about 44 people vote on this improvement, and pole art or medallion art was rated the highest amongst the first choice, and we had the temporary art for the farmers market a close second in the second choice list. So thank you for sharing your feedback on that question. Our next kit of parts element has to do with tactical wayfinding and signage. So these are low-cost, quick improvements that add immediate impact, and they are a great way to highlight existing destinations in downtown or add a layer of wayfinding for pedestrians. So they're usually shorter in lifespan, lasting anywhere from 6 months to a year, and they will need to be refreshed if we want them to stay for longer durations. But as a lower cost element, these are improvements that can be implemented all along the corridor and not just in a few locations. So we have a few options for types of signage here. Option A is floor decals that can go on the sidewalk and include a brand identity for the district or highlight nearby destinations. Option B is the Walk Your City campaign, which is a set of templatized signs that we can create with content specific to downtown Mar Vista to highlight local destinations and encourage people to walk. Option C is facade graphics that can also serve as directional wayfinding, but more integrated into buildings rather than as standalone signs. And option D is branded tactical signage that builds on this idea of a Walk Your City campaign, but allows us to create a more distinctive or branded graphic identity that we can create specific for downtown Mar Vista. So again, this is another set of options that you can select your top choice and your second choice on. And as usual, the top choice also gives you the option to select none of the above. Launching the poll in just a second. There we go. So again, to reiterate, for those of you who joined us maybe a little bit later, the intent of this workshop is to present a broad palette of ideas and get a sense of direction based on community feedback that we get on these improvements. Ultimately, we want to hear what the priorities from the community are, and that will help us focus our efforts for this beautification effort. So please feel free to add your comments and your questions in the comment box and in the Q&A box. In addition to voting on the improvements that you feel are priorities. So closing the poll in just a few more seconds now. Okay. So again, we had about 43 people who voted on this particular poll, and we have seen a number of people voted for the none of the above option, while the second sort of highest was more to do with branded tactical signage or facade graphics. These are low-cost improvements that are very quick to implement, so they could be very impactful. However, it is clear that there are certain other elements that might be more preferred. Okay. Can we go to the next slide, please? So we can also integrate fixed wayfinding signage as part of the beautification efforts. And this would be more permanent signs that create an identity for the main street. These could also serve as artistic elements or play off of public art and branding to ensure that there is a consistent identity for downtown Mar Vista. So among these elements, option A involves creating district brand signage that's distinctive and can uniquely identify downtown Mar Vista as a district. Option B includes examples of more informational signs that could speak to things like Mar Vista's history, for example. So it starts to reveal more about the place to visitors and community members alike. Option C is an example of a more artistic wayfinding sign, which would be unique installations that are in one or two places along the corridor, and they serve as both art and signage. And option D builds on the idea of existing banners to again create signage that showcases existing events in downtown Mar Vista. So this next set of elements will be the next polling question in the same format as before. So launching this poll.
And then Shruti, there was a quick question in the chat that might be relevant for a lot of folks. They're asking there's none of the above for the second option? Are they able to just leave that blank if they just select the first one as none of the above?
Yes, so for those who would like to just select none of the above, you can select that option on the first question and leave the second one blank. The second question is really for those who have a second choice priority among the listed options. Okay, so closing this poll in just a few seconds. Okay, we are getting some comments that their participants are unable to submit if they leave the second question blank. Apologize for that. If you do find that you're unable to submit with the second question blank, please leave a comment in the chat box that your second option vote would be for none of the above. And we will take that into account when we process all of the feedback. So sharing the results for this polling question, for the fixed wayfinding, again, we had a number of people answer none of the above, while event banner signs sort of had the second highest option. Okay. So moving on to the next element, we have the design kit of parts, landscape accents. So landscape accents are another opportunity to add some greenery to beautify downtown Mar Vista and create a people-friendly, inviting environment. So these are intended to be enhancements at a few spot locations where other improvements and amenities are being added and not a corridor-wide improvement. So they will require some maintenance, which can be facilitated by local business sponsors who are willing to adopt the planters. We've identified two options for integrating landscape as part of this project. So option A is to include clustered landscape accents that are on the sidewalk at locations where other amenities are provided to create social spaces that are inviting for people. So these clustered planters can be in a wide range of colors to match the overall design character of the beautification improvements. Option B is to have landscape accents that are more so in the bike lane buffer as another way to introduce greening and make the street feel safer. So this improvement would not be corridor wide as part of this project, but rather introduced in strategic locations to enhance the quality of the landscape. So the next poll has to do with this slide of improvements, including landscape accents. We are getting a lot of good questions and comments in the Q&A box, so thank you for that. So a couple of seconds more on this poll. Okay, so we had about 21 votes, so about 45% of the folks who voting for buffer landscape. And we also had some interest in the clustered landscape accents on the sidewalk, with some folks also choosing none of the above. Okay, So moving on to our last element. So we have street seating as part of the beautification kit of parts as well. And the intent for street seating is to have loose furnishings that are paired with local businesses who would serve as sponsors that maintain the furnishings and take them in at night to ensure safety. The seating will support these existing local businesses, and it will also create more opportunities for local patrons and visitors to stay. So we have identified a menu of different types of seating options based on the way people can occupy the public realm. So these are, again, sort of broader design suggestions and not specific fixtures that we are speaking to at the moment. But we would like to know which sort of seating, which types of seating the community would most like to see. So option A is simple movable chairs that could serve as additional sidewalk seating outside businesses. Option B is an example of stackable benches that are lightweight and easy to move, but allow for more social seating. Option C showcases flexible cafe seating with bright pops of color that can provide additional sidewalk dining opportunities for existing establishments. Option D is an example of smaller modular seats that can be, again, used flexibly in a number of different ways by combining them to create low tables or used individually as seats themselves. And option E is larger sort of lounge seats with shade, which could be appropriate for locations that have wider sidewalks and more room to create a people space. So again, to reiterate, the intent for this is to be flexible, movable seats that businesses would sort of take ownership of and take in at night to ensure that they're maintained safely. So for this question, we're launching our next poll. Lots of votes coming in for this one as well. We'll give it a few more seconds. And again, to reiterate, the intent for this street seating is not for it to kind of be fixed or standalone. It will be integrated with existing businesses by asking for business sponsors who can maintain the seating to ensure that it is used beneficially. So closing this poll in just a couple of seconds. Okay. So again, for street seating, we saw a lot of folks, about 17 votes, which is 40%, vote for none of the above as their primary option, while flex cafe seating had 14 votes at 33%. And as the second choice, again, flex cafe seating had a lot of interest from those who voted. So thank you all for sharing your feedback on all of these elements. And we have a final voting slide. Can we go to the next slide, please?
Working on it. My computer's frozen. Apologize.
No worries. Just so one slide. There we go. Thank you. So now that we've had a chance to share a number of different ideas for each of these kit of parts elements, we would also like to know, based on everything we've discussed, which of these sort of broad buckets of improvements is a top priority for you to include as part of the Downtown Mar Vista Beautification project. So similar to the other questions, we would like to get your top priority as well as your second choice. And again, focusing on sort of elements that are implementable and understanding the direction to move forward in within this set of improvements is important for us. So these questions do not have a none of the above option, but they're more so to inform us among these priorities or among these elements, which of them are more beneficial or more of a priority for the community. So I'm going to share the final poll. So for those of you expressing concern about the second poll question, we will have information on what the voting choices were. So for those of you who have selected none of the above for all your first questions, your second responses will be negated in our analysis of the results. We still have a few votes coming in, so we'll give this a few more seconds before wrapping up this final poll. Okay, so closing this poll now. So the results of the final poll, as among the options presented, the top choice for improvements was public art that was selected by 41% of those who voted. And the second choice, again, among the improvements presented, was for landscape accents. As I kind of mentioned earlier, this is our preliminary work on this project, and we will be taking all of this feedback into account to think through the next steps of this project, and we will be back for further community outreach at the Mar Vista Farmers Market. So if we can go to the next slide, we'll have Anna speak a little bit about next steps. Anna, I believe you might be muted.
Thank you, everyone who participated tonight. Your input is very important to us. So in case you came in late or have friends or neighbors who could not participate tonight, they can view the webinar and also participate in the survey. We will be sharing those links with you. The survey will be open for 1 week from tonight through November 6th. So on November 22nd at the Mar Vista Farmers Market, we will be presenting the results of all the polling, so tonight and then the next week, and asking for your input on what those prioritized elements will look like. So we will be, I'm so sorry. Yeah. There you go. So we'll be also make an online survey available at that time as well. So we do have a few minutes to answer some questions right now. So I'm going to turn this over to Alec and Vishesh to facilitate the question and answer period.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Vishesh. I'm the field deputy for Mar Vista in Delray for Councilmember Mike Bonan's office. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go through some of the themes that were brought up in the Q&A as well as the chat and give our panelists an opportunity to answer those. There has been a lot of questions, so if something isn't answered to your liking, please follow up with us. We have Alec's email over there. My email is also present on our website, but I'll give it to you right now. It's my first name dot last name at lacity.org. I'm happy to talk about this or other topics offline as well. One of the questions that were asked was, is there going to be an opportunity later on for folks to participate? Shruti, do you want to mention about the SurveyMonkey, please?
Sure. So after this webinar is concluded, we will have a recording of the webinar available online, as well as an online survey hosted on SurveyMonkey. And links to both of these resources will be emailed and made available through the project's Facebook page. So for those of you who have registered on the Eventbrite or have registered to sign into this webinar, we will be sharing that information for you to also distribute to folks that could not join the meeting today.
Thank you, Shruti. I also noticed that there are quite a few questions about homelessness. I understand. I live in Mar Vista. It is a top concern and priority for residents. We are working towards solutions on that. Mike also announced today that he's going to be having a plethora of town halls to discuss those issues. And one of the issues that he is going to be discussing is homelessness. I will be putting the link where he's collecting feedback of which town hall you want to see first. The first one that's going to be happening is going to be public safety and crime that we're collaborating with LAPD Chief Moore on. But if you want to prioritize other town halls, including homelessness, you can definitely leave that feedback. And I'll be putting that link on the chat shortly. Okay, so the next question we have is from Thomas O'Leary. It's a specific one. On the seating, can you elaborate on what might be the policy as far as who's responsible for maintenance and removing them at night? Who wants to take that?
I can do that. We will be working with business owners who want to have extra seating outside their businesses for typically for dining, and they will be responsible for putting out and bringing in the furniture every night. So we won't put any furniture where we don't have a business owner partner.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to the next question. Let's see. Not having a none of the above choice for the final question did confuse some people in a lot of the questions. And like Shruti mentioned, we're just going to be disregarding those entries and counting that as none of the above for all. So for instance, if you selected none of the above for the first one, regardless of what you selected for the second choice, we're just going to disregard it and count it as none of the above for both, because that's what makes sense. So thank you for bringing that up, and we'll be doing exactly that. Another question is about parking. What can be done to improve parking? I know with the improvements, they're more about landscaping. Maybe Alec, you can discuss that.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of folks have been coming in with very good questions. This particular scope of work is relatively contained to tactical urbanism efforts to beautify the corridor. So we're not touching on planning and land use issues. We are not talking about transportation impacts. This is not a project that will necessarily address homelessness, although we definitely are aware that that is a main concern. And I'm seeing that in the comments. This particular budget is focused on these specific types of elements. So, you know, our council office is here to receive any feedback that you'd like to give, whether it's specific to this project or not. We would like to get feedback on these various elements, and we'd like to see that through this engagement. And if you're concerned about things like parking, like homelessness, like transportation, please engage with Vishesh and I offline. It really is tangential to this particular project. So happy to engage with you offline at a later time if you'd like to connect with me.
And then Alec, do you want to take some of the questions? I'm scrolling through trying to find more, but if you had some you want to take.
Yeah, I'll touch base again. There were some questions about additional community outreach. We do want to hear from everybody. The council member did send an email to folks in Mar Vista asking to participate in this meeting. If you were not able to attend, we will have a recording of this, and we'll ask that you provide your feedback through a SurveyMonkey link by next Friday. We will then process the information and feedback that we've received and come back to the community again in November at the farmers market. And if folks prefer not to meet at the farmers market and again participate virtually, we will have that option available to you folks. So we really do want everybody to be involved. We've tried to reach everybody that we could. If you know folks that are interested in this, please send them the link once we share it with you to get as much feedback as we can. There was one question early on about potentially repairing existing art. That's a very good question. We'll have to look into that and see what we can do. It will involve reaching out to the original artist and touching base with them. So if there's certain examples that you'd like us to take a look at, please share that with the project team, whether it's Vishesh or Shruti or Anna or I. We will look into that and see what our options are in that respect. There were two other questions that stood out to me. We've been getting a lot of questions. If we are not able to address them, by all means, we'd like to engage with everybody, and please email us and we'll get to your questions. There was one question about potential planter boxes and its potential impact to outdoor seating or the bike lane. These are elements that would not impact those features. The planter boxes, again, would be implemented at business locations with participating businesses. So ultimately, they will decide how they want to utilize the treatment that we're providing. And then there was another question related to that about ADA access and inclusivity. None of the treatments that we are implementing or are proposing to implement would impact ADA access. And we do want to engage folks, disability folks in our community to see what they'd like to see and how we can interface with these various elements. Those are the ones that stood out to me. I'll keep looking.
I had a couple of questions about diversity in the aesthetic improvements. Some of them were related to All Black Lives Matter and also reflecting the Latino community. Shruti, is that going to be considered in the design elements depending on what stands out as a priority after tonight and the feedback that we collect?
Yes, so thank you to everyone who have been proposing those types of directions as part of the feedback in the chat and in the Q&A. Those are all definitely themes and ideas that we will be taking into account when we are moving forward with looking at implementing specific improvements as part of this project. So all of the themes that were mentioned tonight will be taken into consideration, and our intent is to work with local artists to move forward along the directions that the community has started talking about tonight. And again, before these improvements are taken into the ground for implementation, there will be the second community outreach meeting as another opportunity to refine, provide more feedback, and sort of vet these options before moving forward.
Thank you. And then the next question was about what about attracting new businesses to the area? That is the idea behind this project, is to create some sort of identity for downtown Mar Vista, to incite more patrons and more visitors in the area, and thereby increasing the likelihood of more businesses wanting to open storefronts in this location. The next question is, how can we get the recording of the Zoom meeting? We're going to be posting it on our social media. Also, if you follow Mike on all social media and subscribe to his mailing list, we're also going to be sending information on there. The Zoom link is going to be, the Zoom meeting recording is going to be sent with the survey link as well. So you can watch the video at your own time and then respond to the survey in case you joined us late and want to give us feedback on the earlier questions. You can definitely do that. Let's see. There's some questions about the hopscotch mosaic outside the Mar Vista Library. It is being looked into. I'm working with DCA to look at the entities that can take care of that mosaic. They haven't gotten back to me with the list yet, but I'll be following up with them. The person who was leading that project on DCA's end is currently on vacation, so I'm trying to coordinate that with whoever is currently working, and it's slowing things down. But we are looking to install that as soon as possible because it's gone through everything. It's passed a slip test. Tracy's ready to install it. So we're just trying to find that maintenance entity and then move forward with that project. Let's see. If there's other questions. There's a follow-up question about the diversity in signage and artwork, Shruti. Are we thinking about adding the signage in multiple languages just to kind of be more inclusive?
That's definitely something that we can explore. If there are any sort of ideas building on that in terms of whether the thought is for specific signage or if it's more about art, again, very happy to hear those comments as we move forward thinking about design in the next stages.
Okay, thank you. Let's go through these again. We've been getting a lot more comments about homelessness. Like I mentioned earlier, that is still our priority. I live in Mar Vista. I understand that that is a top concern for constituents. We can do multiple things at once. We have our senior staff looking into solutions. We're coordinating with other partners, Culver City, CD5, who we share the Venison Globe encampment with. I know it's a long time coming, but we're going to be seeing some change soon. If you looked at the encampment to home program that we launched at Venice at the Rose and Panmar location, you'll see that we are looking to house folks rapidly. We just want to make sure that when we do it, we're doing it foolproof. And that's what's taking slightly longer. So I really appreciate your patience, and I'm happy to have those conversations with you one-on-one if you'd like. Please reach out. Thank you. Okay.
There was a question about timeline. We do have, and as we have mentioned before, we will have a follow-up meeting in November, on November 22nd at the farmers market. We do hope to distill all of the information that we've received within a matter of weeks. And then once we've moved ahead with finalizing the various elements based on your feedback, we will start applying for permits. Depending on the department and the complexity of those permits, we're looking at, between weeks and months. So, to give you a safe answer, I'll say spring of 2021, but my intent and our goal is to have something in early next year. But a lot of that is contingent on the permitting process and how quickly we can move through the paperwork.
And then there's a question about the budget and the financing of this project. Alec, can you speak to that as well, please?
Yeah, so this is funded through our Great Streets, Mayor's Great Streets program. And that is why the scope of work is very contained to essentially placemaking and beautification elements. There have been a lot of questions about, diverting these funds to other department related services or homelessness services that are largely maintained by the county. This is a very defined scope based on the type of funding that we are receiving. And that is why we are kind of presenting these relatively limited options, not only to figure out a way to move forward in a practical way, but also to kind of explain the constraints that we're working with and what we can deliver with this amount of funding.
Thank you, Alec.
There was one question about reacting to more specific elements. Good question, Catherine. That is the intent of our second meeting. So based on the feedback that we're getting tonight and based on the feedback we'll get through our SurveyMonkey link through next week, We will be able to distill this, brainstorming exercise and come back to the community with more specific elements in which you'll provide your feedback once more. So we do intend to distill this down and provide more specific examples that we can get your reactions on.
Okay, and then there's also a question about possibility of posting that before the farmers market. We can discuss that more internally, but would that be a possibility, Anna?
Posting the information before the farmer's market?
In case people want to review it before attending, I'm guessing, want to think about it before coming out.
That might be something we could do just a day or two before. I think that the time in between, we need to look at the information and then create the next survey. So I can talk with Studio 111. Maybe that's something we could do, but just 48 hours in advance, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's the idea. Okay. I think we got through most of the ideas. I know some people have pointed questions about things. Please reach out. I'd be happy to have one-on-one conversations with you. This project is pertinent to the discussion that we've had in the presentation today, but that doesn't mean we're not working on other projects. So I'm happy to discuss that with you all.
And we did, I'll touch on that a little bit more. We did kind of highlight early on in the presentation the different projects that we have worked on in the past. There's existing projects like this one, and there are other projects that we would like to work on that are not specific to tactical urbanism or placemaking or beautification. There are lots of priorities in the Mar Vista community that we would like to address and prioritize. So this is just one project of many. And I understand it may not necessarily be addressing your #1 priority for the community, but this is a way to uplift the business environment, which very much needs our assistance to sustain themselves during the pandemic. And we're looking for opportunities to support them in any way that we can. So this is a follow-up to our door-to-door outreach to businesses to let them know about resources that are available to them from the city and the county to help assist financially. We are working on this project. We are working on many things to uplift the community in various ways. So we apologize if your specific issues are not addressed in this particular project, but please know that between Vishesh and I and staff at the council office, we are available and would like to engage with you on all of your priorities to see how we can help in any way that we can.
Okay, and then I want to do one more thing. We've been getting some comments about trash cans. I've been working with some stakeholders to identify locations in downtown Mar Vista where we can add some of those trash cans. If you think I've missed a location, we're still getting that list built up, so you can reach out to me and I can work with you on that. And then one last time, I'm sharing the Google form for Mike's priorities for town hall suggestions. So please fill that out and we'd be happy to get those facilitated for our constituents. Thank you all. I'll hand it back to Anna, who will probably close us off.
Yes, thanks again for everyone who's come and shared their information. We will be sharing the link for both the webinar and the survey, so we'll look forward to hearing more from more of your neighbors and stakeholders in the area. Anyway, thank you, and you have all the emails. You're welcome to email any of us. Okay, so we'll see you on Mar Vista at the farmer's market on the 22nd. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you all for your participation.